What's up, Crouchers? Welcome to another week of TCP here, the podcast where we finally have Overwatch League news, and we're actually not going to talk about anime at all today, for a couple of reasons. One, we like talking about it for a full hour last week, and not that much happened in the last episode. So we'll hold it. We'll hold it so we will find out a little bit more. We meaning just Yiska find out a little bit more because Joe and I already know what happens. And then maybe when we have another dead week of no Overwatch news. Although I think things are starting to really come through. This whole Overwatch drought seems to be water's. I'm feeling some raindrops. I'm getting a light shower, couple of dark clouds overhead. I can see the storm coming slightly. April. Not April anymore. We actually just announcement. May is the new date, but it's still far away. But you can see the rain clouds on the horizon now, so maybe the drought will finally end.
Hoping so. And we'll get into this. It feels very optimistic. Like we're finally getting back into the swing of things. The off season is starting to come to a close. Like AVRL saying, we can start to see the finish line a little bit, but it feels like there's still there's not a ton of ground left to cover in terms of time, but there's still this cavernous pit that we need to get filled in. You know what I mean? We're still not sure what the track even looks like. It is a bizarre world we live in right now. But it's optimistic, I guess. So far so good.
Yeah, I think
it's the first announcement. It's the first announcement we've had in a long time.
Right.
So
I think really we're waiting for the tsunami to come in with a huge information, because honestly, there wasn't that much juicy stuff in there, right? Not too many changes. I guess we got a slight correction when stuff is happening. We had a bunch of the information already, right?
What's juicy? What would be juicy for you?
Well,
what would you want to see where it would be damn, that's juicy? What would that be?
I'm probably the game we're playing. That would be juicy.
Let's not push it too far, mate. I think you're.
Dude,
that's like that moment. That's like that moment where, I'm Santa Claus, you're on my lap, and you're like, I want a dragon, and I'm like, no, I can't give you that. You're like, oh, give me Overwatch. I'm like, all right, well, what color dragon would you like, Yiska?
Dude, I was working I should have really gotten it out when it was still funny and relevant, but now I feel like the audience isn't in the mood anymore because we got actually information. But I was working on the satire idea of Blizzard doubling down on this current situation and just going once again, satire. Spoiler, don't clip this out of context, please. But going so NFTs worked. What about a non-playable esport? And because because power rankings are the best performing content anyway, power rankings, the credibility of them are kind of destroyed by actually playing the game. So let's just skip playing the game. Let's just skip playing, making an actual game, and just fully invest 20 million on a game we actually haven't played yet, have signed players for, don't know who will actually be good, but we can all go into this church together, much like the NFT crowd can, basically on absolutely zero value provided.
And hope that somewhere down the line, someone is gonna buy my picture of a monkey smoking a dart. I don't know. That's that'll be it. I don't know why it's always when you want to stereotype what an NFT looks like, it's a monkey doing something, a cartoon monkey doing something. Yeah, that's what they always are. Anyway, that's not the point of the episode. We are going to cover, obviously, and really break down what all the recent announcement was, which is mostly scheduling based stuff, but still kind of interesting. So without further ado, let's get on with it. 214 TCP brought to you by Battlecram, Refine Beam, Brosbot Buhal, Jare, Prophet Picasso, Chris R34444, Casher67, Lulshin, Porkchop Sammy, Rex Zane, Sagurthalop, Volamel Smooth Nuts, and Your Misery. 214 also being I guess it's the Valentine's episode, or for me, it's the I'm so lonely episode. We have we have a schedule outline basically coming through. And beyond that as well, we have what is it? We have the initial opening weekend dates about stuff, about matches. And so those are quite interesting. Some really interesting matches to start out with. So we don't have more than that so far, but we have the general overlook of what the format and everything looks like this year. So a couple things confirmed. There will be 24 matches per team, which means 6 per stage. There will still be 4 stages, but the way the stages work will be slightly different. There is only going to be 2 international tournaments out of the 4 stages, one in the middle of the season and one at the end of the season for the playoffs, obviously. And the other 2 stages will only have inter-regional, so like, for only your own region and not for international play. So APAC only plays within APAC, NA only plays within NA for those other 2 tournaments. And live events, there's going to be a ton of live events. They're going to try and do as many live events as possible, pending COVID, whatever. But all the NA live events should probably go on through at this stage. So expect just a lot of live Overwatch League returning, which I cannot wait for. I am thirsting for all of that type of content. Yeah, I mean I think that's the general overall. Did I cover most of the big beats there? Was that basically the cliff notes?
I think so. Yeah. Total games played, international tournament changes. Those were some of the big ones that I kind of took from it. So yeah, I would say so. I guess
It's gonna be a $1 million prize pool for each of the internationals as well. So mid-season tournament and the postseason tournament will both be worth 1 mil, which is actually, I believe that's an increase in prize pool for the Overwatch League.
Is it? Oh, really?
Yeah, I think it is. I think the Overwatch League did not have that. Like that's more prize money than previously.
Is it above 7%?
4.
Does it beat the inflation rate?
Actually, hang on. Let me double back on this. Is it more? Is it actually more? I don't know if that's like $1 million on top of previous. You know what? I'm not going to get into that because I don't have the full information. So
right.
All we know is it says the mid-season, postseason tournament will both feature a hefty prize pool of at least 1 million. So we actually don't know the full number yet. So we don't know.
Makes sense. Yep.
It could be decent. It could, I don't know. We'll find out. It's probably much better for the winning team. Like if you're winning both mid-season and the playoffs, you're banking it. So congratulations, Moon, for doing that early on. You know,
well done.
Well done for the Shanghai Dragons winning the 2022 season.
Which, we'll they're also in the news. We'll see if we get to them. I think like initial reaction, I think the biggest one probably, obviously 4 games last season was a little too short. 6 this time.
Per stage, you mean?
Yeah, per stage. Feels a little bit more conclusive as to who the best teams are, who's improving, who's not. I feel like we're gonna be able to get a better read on what these teams are up to. But I guess like maybe the hot take is like around the international competition, because I feel like there was a lot of enjoyment around, seeing regular competition between the 2 regions last year, with obviously going to Hawaii all 4 stages. Now we're only getting that twice a year. Is that a good thing or a bad thing, do you guys think?
It's a necessary thing, because
Agreed.
the problem is there's still difficulty getting international teams, especially from Asia, into the United States. Well, even vice versa. I'm sure it's as difficult to get the United States players into Asia. We're assuming no European events. I'm sorry, EU. It's just probably not going to happen. So because of that, it makes sense to not try and spread yourself too thin and commit to 4 internationals when you don't even know if you can make 2. Let's be real. Like 2 is... I think the LA one at the end of the year should be pretty possible. We're getting to the point now where like a new variant of COVID comes up, and every new variant, I feel like less and less people give a shit. So for better or worse, for better or worse, less and less people give a shit. And by that, less and less governments probably give a shit too. So only the New Zealand government's still freaking out right now. And boy, to people from my home country, it's like they live in a different world and they just don't know how the rest of the world operates. I'm not going to get into politics though. But yeah, we're getting to the stage now where I'm pretty confident that the end of year postseason playoffs, grand finals, LAN event, that should go through. The mid-season one, I would say, is a high chance of going through. But dude, the league always has a backup plan anyway. Like if it comes down to it, they will always have Hawaii as a backup if they really need. But I think it's probably a safe thing that they committed to 2 internationals instead of like, let's do 2 Hawaiis and then we'll do 2 lands. You know, that feels weird. At least here, at worst, you're probably getting 1 Hawaii, 1 LAN.
Yeah.
So I don't know. So to answer Joe's question, like I feel like it is necessary. I feel like it's the risk adverse thing to do while still trying to do cool stuff. But it does suck we get less internationals. I agree, but if you want them to be on land, this is kind of how it has to be.
I also wonder, like, is there and I feel like I'm just pinning myself as like this content demon degenerate like consumer, and I am in some ways, but not in others. I hope these like feel special. I hope this feels like the midseason feels like this big celebratory, you know, there's tons of like hype built up into that week. You know, I hope it is billed as like this big international event, because while the stages were good and I thought that, you know, we had I enjoy regular international competition. That was something that, you know, I really enjoyed. I don't know that it was possible to kind of bill them as important as what I think they were, because of how frequent they, you know, kind of came about, and obviously with COVID and whatnot. So hopefully this year we can maybe
Also,
get a little bit, you know, better at that.
extra input. Those tournaments was what, 2 NA, 2 APAC. You have very limited teams. So
Yeah.
if you were going to, I actually thought that was pretty underwhelming. The fact that only 2 teams from each region got to go, when at various stages you could have said that there could have been 3 or more teams that were easily good enough to be at an international tournament like that.
Sure, yeah.
So that's why international tournaments this time around has something like 12 teams. Like Mid-Season Madness has 12 teams straight away. I'll get the official breakdown on how many NA and APAC teams it's meant to be, but yeah, here it is. 8 from the West, and well, I guess that's 4 from the East then. Maths. So 12 teams. Now here's the other reason why doing 4 international events probably is a little bit too optimistic. Is logistically, that's a lot of teams to deal with in a live setting. So doing that only twice a year instead of 4 times a year makes your life a lot easier as a organizer.
100%.
Especially because, like, I've again, I have to qualify this statement as a speculation on my part, not some insider leak. I am just speculating. Now, the third-party operator that Blizzard has been contracting or is about to contract for the Overwatch League probably is most likely, you know, their main job is to handle these live events.
Yeah.
That's probably their main operation, right? So makes their job a little bit easier if it's only two times and not 4 times.
Yep. 100%. Like, and I think that's going to feel just inherently more impactful when you have this kind of third party coming in, setting up these like big live events, which, you know, I think I've been to a few live events to know what to expect from a, you know, an Overwatch competition. And there's a lot going on. There's a lot of, you know, things to do and people to see and, you know, extracurriculars to get into. But it, I think that's probably one of my biggest metrics of success is like, if these can go off without a hitch, then I think, well, I guess pass Overwatch 2 in general, but I think the return to live events is something that not only like the wider world in general has been waiting for, but something that esports, specifically our neck of the woods, is really kind of keen to get back into. So hopefully this goes well.
Yiska's just gonna nod his head.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Cool. All right. So what else did we get out of that? So 24 regular season matches. You already spoke to this a little bit, Joe, but the other issue last year was that it felt like strength of schedule was a very important factor in determining how and which team was going to make it through a tournament. Because your strength, if you got the weaker teams in your strength of schedule for a particular stage, you are probably going to go 3-0, 3-1 or 4-0, no issues, right? And then beyond that, with a good seeding, you know, you roll some good dice and, you know, you got to make it through your side of the bracket and you're in the top 2 and you're good to go. So easier said than done, don't get me wrong. But this also had impact towards end of season standings, because people will say like, oh, Paris went, what was their score again? 8-8? Is that correct? Is their final score 8-8?
Sounds right.
Yeah.
But then you have to look at their games and you're like, well, actually, who did they beat?
Right.
And it's a lot of it was 8-8. There's a lot of teams that were worse than them. There's just the who was worse than them. They had a lot of London and Vancouver games in there that they kind of beat up on.
Yes.
So strength of schedule made a huge difference. So with 6 matches per stage, 24 overall, and this was well explained in their video, by the way. If you haven't seen it, not right now. I mean, you can if you want to right now. You can pause this and go watch it. But at some stage of your convenience, there's a 12-minute video on the Overwatch League channel which kind of explains the format as well. We're kind of dissecting it a bit more. They explain it in more of a general way. But one thing that was really important for people to understand is that the significance of there being 24 games, with there being 13 teams in NA and 7 teams in APAC, is that you get to have a really clean split in how many times you play each team in your region, which is something I think Yiska brought up a long time ago now when we hypothesized the 7-13 split. It means in APAC, every single stage you play a round robin, you play every other team, because there's only 7 teams, you play the other 6. And then NA, you play every other team twice over the 4 stages, because there's you are one team and you have to play the other 12 teams and you split them evenly. So it's a very clean split, removes strength of schedule, especially in APAC. No excuses in APAC. You literally get the most accurate placement in APAC that you can possibly hope for.
Yes.
Yeah, there's no, I think you put it nicely, like there's no excuses, whereas in NA it's even, like you may have a harder schedule this stage, but you're gonna get that back later. If you start with an easy schedule, you're gonna, it's going to ramp up for you. So it's even. I think it's an improvement. I know that there has been some certain teams definitely have benefited more than others from strength of schedule, especially last year. And you definitely don't want that. It's definitely not a good thing.
Well,
and yeah, it's an improvement in general.
Theoretically speaking, isn't there still... Okay, so maybe there's a misunderstanding on my part, right? Have they announced if we're still giving bonus wins for the stage playoffs?
Yeah, so there will be bonus wins. One of the big changes is that if you qualify to a tournament at all, regional or international, you simply get a point. You get a point no matter what.
Right.
And Sean even had a bit of a jab at Atlanta. He says, Atlanta's going to enjoy this, but you now get a point for just qualifying through. Then I believe beyond that, you get bonus points. So I think what you're about to say, Yiska, is that it's about to be a very top-heavy season in terms of points.
I mean, that, and like, if you think about it, the one, if you have the easiest schedule in the one stage where there isn't a tournament, that's still a difference of strength and schedule, right?
Yeah, there'll be 3 tournaments because the Countdown Cup doesn't have a tournament technically.
Right.
So there's 3 tournaments and then the playoffs. So you are farming tournaments. You start for your farming points off those 3 tournaments specifically. So I guess in NA it doesn't apply to APAC because you play round robin, but in NA, depending on who you are and if there are like unbelievably good teams on one end, you could dodge. Like for example, if you get some very hard teams in Countdown Cup and you don't get them the other 3, that'll help you qualify into the first 3 tournaments or the only 3 tournaments.
Right. No, it's hard to say. This is probably like a hindsight calculation that we have to try, because like theoretically, I think like over the past seasons you probably wanted to meet the strongest teams early on because a lot of them need time to ramp up to their full strength and stuff like that. But if they don't like completely mirror the schedule at the mid-season point, meaning like you play they wouldn't do that. So I think with the way it's going, very likely is like you're playing your 12 opponents, right? Like one after another, and then you do the same schedule again in the second half, right? Now, unless they're not doing that, I could see a world where they're not doing that based on like homestand schedule. Not sure. But like if that's the case, then yeah, like it's hard to say what actually the advantage is. If you want to dodge, if you want like all the best teams in the first 2 halves, so in the first and third stage, or if you want to have them in the second stage. There's a ton of variables to consider because you probably also want to do the mid-season tournament rather than the other playoffs if you could choose. But you also probably want to meet the strong teams early, and then you don't want the strong teams, or you probably want the strong teams in the Countdown Cup because there it doesn't account for an extra win. So there's a ton of calculations. Once again, I think Baroy did like a calculation at the end of the season how impactful everything was in terms of like outcome and how possibly like the Mayhem could have like had a pretty decent season had they had a better strength of schedule. I think at this point, I haven't done any numbers based on this. And actually also haven't really thought this through. But like last time it looked pretty even like before we started playing matches, and then unfortunately it ended up being not that even. This time, and then you have to say, well, you did your job well if nobody's really crying before the fact, because apparently there's this information that nobody knows, so you did the best you could have. And this time around, I'd have to really go in depth, but it doesn't look egregious in the way it sets up because your strength of schedule has different benefits or like negatives to them that could differently impact the season, and it's probably more likely that it's like a idiosyncratic situation where like some teams would benefit more from this type of schedule while other teams would benefit more doing this, because once again, we probably can also expect different metas, so you probably want to meet the strongest teams in your best metas if you're a team capable of beating those teams on those metas. But the same logic applies to teams that will never have a chance to beat top teams, but might, like on their best meta, win against some mid-tier teams and maybe get into a tournament. So there's a ton of things to consider. And in the end, like, I mean, super clean, like, competitive integrity is just impossible by the constraints of time, basically, right? Like, time and interest.
Unless NA just plays double the amount of matches.
Yeah, and that's
so that you can have a round robin, which is every single stage.
Right.
You basically don't have complete competitive integrity unless you only play round robins.
And then
that's the only way you get a complete competitive integrity.
I agree, but then there's also things like how do you schedule that? Because scheduling is another thing that actually will impact competitive integrity, because some teams will have trap weeks by scheduling.
Well, I just don't think you'll never win.
Yes,
there's no find a solution.
And then even if you were to solve this by just throwing insane amounts of games at the problem, then your competitive integrity just like tanks because your players are dying on stage. Like, it's
there's no winning, and I think this is as long as we're striving to improve in problematic areas, I think that's always a win, right? Like, and I think this is an improvement. We had way too many in the first season. We had too few last season. Now we're getting somewhere in the middle with this kind of 2-region system. I think it's an improvement.
Right.
You know what doesn't have competitive integrity in traditional sports? It's just like widely a thing, simply because you can't really avoid it. But like home crowds and home stadiums.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
I mean,
100%.
And that's just the thing that you live with in traditional sports. You just simply live with that because it is what it is.
Yeah, it's a pretty.
So you can never have full competitive integrity in like any sport, unfortunately. That's the way it is.
It's like it's also pretty much a non-issue over a representative amount of time. The problem really comes when, like in sports, like you have this warm, fuzzy feeling of, over the next 3 decades, this will sort of average out. We can't always be unlucky. In esports, it's like 3 decades. Like, what is a 3-decade esport? Like, that shit will never happen. And like,
dude, if I'm like 50, 60 years old and not still casting, I mean, esports has failed, really. Come on. Like, I expect to be like, John Madden. How old was he when he was still casting? Like, come on, like, let me be an old man caster.
But what if your future career requires you to have neurocortical implants in order to connect to the platform that the games?
Just said.
Think Neuralink.
Do I need to? Do I need to swipe my NFT debit card to get into it? What?
No, you, like just like have some chips in your brain in order to participate.
I'm down with that. I'm down with that. They can just. You should. They should. I want to be uploaded into the Matrix. You know.
Really?
Yeah. Upload me now. Upload me.
All
good.
I have a like wanted this very badly until I got in shape. Weirdly, and now I'm okay. Like put me there when I'm like 75.
Bro, you can. It doesn't matter how in shape you think you are because you will always exactly when you get to 75.
Yes.
How in shape are you now, dude?
No, put me in that robot shape then. Like, yeah, no.
That will fade. It will fade, and it will come. Everyone, you know, I'll see you all in the Matrix. Eventually, you'll be there. That's what I'm saying. Time will win.
Thinking we aren't already in one.
Oh yeah, that's funny. I mean, as we, what did we not cover here? So we have 24 regular season matches. Oh yeah, here's a really interesting thing as well. So the way the 4 tournaments, so first of all, they're branded as, well, they go again, Kickoff Classic into Mid-Season Madness into Summer Showdown to Countdown Cup. The Countdown Cup is branded as a play-in. Now, this is something that everyone has to pay attention to. The play-in portion of the Countdown Cup is only at the end of the Countdown Cup. So there's no playoffs, there's no regional tournament or any sort of tournament after the Countdown Cup as a part of that stage. Once the Countdown Cup ends, the stage 4 is done. The play-ins follows immediately from the Countdown Cup. I believe it's still technically tied in with the Countdown Cup, so branding-wise, maybe the play-ins are still called the Countdown Cup, but there's no tournament there. You finish the Countdown Cup, you collect whatever points you have remaining. Teams that meet the cutoff point go straight to the playoffs. Teams that do not make the cutoff point at all for anything, you get eliminated from the season. And then whatever teams are left in the middle who are not eliminated from the season but also did not make the playoffs immediately, they go and play into the play-ins. And then from the play-ins, a certain amount of teams will exit there and go into the playoffs, right? So that's how that kind of works. And then the playoffs happens as normal, as you'd expect. And I believe, just to be specific about this, it is 4 teams from NA and 2 teams from APAC. And playoffs is, I think playoffs is still 12 teams, or unless I got that wrong. I'm pretty sure the playoffs is still 12 teams. Is that correct? You guys want to correct me on that, or am I correct? Or am I already got that?
I think that's right. Can I get a minor quibble out? Minor linguistic quibble. Okay. So they opted to rename 2 of the cups, right?
Yeah.
But
because June Tournament was not a fun sounding. June Joust was not a fun name. Yeah. I'll be real with you.
Right. Anyway. Yeah, I don't hate that much. But why would you not change the tournament that actually changed in what it does? Like, why is Countdown Cup still Countdown Cup instead of like calling it like something else in order to highlight that you made a change?
What playoffs preparation?
I don't know. I promise you can live without alliterations. That is absolutely a thing you can do.
Yeah, but they're less fun.
No, they're not.
You know,
they're all of them are garbage.
They're like shitty puns.
What are some good P words?
The absolute anti-humor.
I'm gonna find some really whack ones. I'm gonna try and fit penis in there if I can. Penis party. We're done. That's my inner 12-year-old laughing right now.
Penis party? Is that what you said?
Yeah. Easy money.
Nice.
See, you don't need an inner 12-year-old when you just are.
Mid-season madness, summer showdown, penis party, done.
There you go.
Dude, yeah, I don't know. That's like that. That's my minor quibble with this. That you rename the 2 events that actually don't change that much, and then don't rename the one that is actually pretty fundamentally changed, even though we had something like this before in like season 3, right?
Yeah.
So
it's not that fundamentally changed. I think it's just redoing season 3.
The thing is, like, okay, I'm going to make a mountain out of a molehill, right?
Like Yiska doing that.
I don't know if you've seen your Reddit history, but you tend to.
It's like now you communicate to me that you think that more people will show up to this season that don't know and aren't confused by Countdown Cup than there will be that will be confused by the mentioning of Countdown Cup. And I'm wondering if you're deluded. Like, that's my... You understand what I'm saying?
Nope.
Okay, so there's an amount of... a certain amount of people that know the term Countdown Cup from last year.
Yes, correct.
And you just change it anyway, right? This sort of implies to me that you think Countdown Cup is already a pretty good name for the end of the season.
No, I think this is a bell curve.
And then
this is the bell curve thing we talked about.
And then like you're now thinking, well, it doesn't matter because the name is good. The amount of people confused by this is pretty like small in terms of the audience that we will actually amass. And I say to you, kudos for thinking you will have this much viewership. I'm waiting to see it.
This is the top of the bell curve, and you start with lol too much work, and then you end with lol too much work.
What's wrong with Countdown Cup? It's a perfectly functional name. I don't know. I don't think it's that
right,
big.
but it has been used. It's like reusing a condom. You just don't do that if you change it.
What do you want them to do? Change the names of tournaments every year?
There's so many alterations in your life. I promise you could have found something else. It also doesn't need to...
What's wrong with just keeping the same name?
Because it's now okay, it's not a problem, but in the contrast of you changing the other ones that actually didn't change, it's weird.
So
Does that make sense?
They should have changed them all?
Can you tell I studied linguistics? No, what I'm saying is...
So are you saying change them all, or...
No,
what
I'm saying is the reason to change things is if their functionality changed, because nobody actually cares about the name in the first place. They just want a descriptor for a noun in order to work with that. And if you keep changing the definition on things that actually by their fundamental nature didn't change, but don't change the name of things that did change, that's kind of weird. Unless you believe it is already a good term that a lot of people that aren't aware of that name will outmass or outsize the amount of people that will be confused by this. Because if I'm hearing Countdown Cup, there's actually no cup, bro. Where's the cup? There's no cup.
I'm just gonna say it's probably not a big deal. I don't think.
Yes, that's my mind. I quibble. I'm making them out. That's literally right for
Yeah, it's pretty minor. I don't think. I mean, I'll be real with you. In a way, I see where you're going, and I would like it if they were more like majors in a way, like a CS kind of major, where you actually go to a tournament and you play it and you win. I don't know, maybe you do get a cup. This is kind of the halfway meeting point where they would like to do something like that in terms of tournaments, but it is still a franchise league, and it's got to be a franchise league. So we're caught in the middle where we're trying to do a little bit of both. Which, don't get me wrong, I think it's good. I'd rather this than just do a full franchise league. So
no, I'm
okay with where we are. I'm okay with where our current situation is.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's just my one of my side points of I've been begging for someone to take hold of language in this game, generally speaking. Someone that's some linguistics PhD that's really designing everything that we're constantly using to a sensical degree, because you know how we are actually now running into problems because of our language, where we have to make decisions on how do we rate the best DPS players of all time. Do we do flex DPS? Do we do head scan DPS? Do we do hyperflex? What is going on? What is actually a flex support? What kind of heroes does that guy play? But what do we do with tanks now? Someone needs to get what is dive? What kind of archetypes are in there? Someone's gotta start using our stuff. And when we change things, how we introduced assault as a game mode name that actually nobody really uses. And it's in unnecessary stuff. I just go, okay, nobody actually with an idea of how this is supposed to work is taking charge of this. And it's making for a confusing experience.
It's not like a problem that it's not like individual to us, to be fair. Like this is just a
Yiska,
problem in general.
I'm gonna be real with you. This problem is like climate change. Not enough of people are gonna give a shit.
Yeah,
And
I know.
until it ends our civilization, in which case you're gonna be like, see, I told you Overwatch League should have hired a PhD linguistics expert.
Yeah.
You know. But that'll
look
be
up,
at the end
Yiska.
of the world.
Don't look
That'll
up.
be at the end of the world. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Until you're in a contract negotiation and you say I resign, and they don't know if you mean the dash or non-dash version.
Jesus Christ. This is why I just gotta get plugged into the matrix. See that if you get plugged into the matrix,
You just know.
climate change
Right.
just doesn't really matter. You know.
Let's-
But I'll tell you what, this is your minor W. Linguistics probably will matter in the matrix a little bit. So hopefully they do design that with some sort of linguistics PhD.
Right. Maybe we can just
For it to
become
be
one
like,
hive mind.
to make it like really real, I think they should program climate change into the matrix as well. Just for like that real realism, like
But they
bloody
did.
screen realism factor.
Yeah.
So, because why not? All right. So, I think we covered it. Oh yeah, the last thing is the actual schedule. We start May 5th, which, funny enough, is the 5th day of the 5th month, signaling in 5v5
Damn.
of the 5th season of Overwatch League. 5 versus 5 versus 5.
Hey,
May the 5th be with you guys. May the 5th
pretty
be with you.
much.
It's also the
Fifth.
amount of dates I had on Valentine's Day.
You had 5 dates? Damn. My guy.
Yeah, with those 5.
Oh,
Took a second.
all
Sorry.
right.
Sleepy brain.
Okay. Well,
Children.
I gotta
when you're older.
say, bad news to all the people on YouTube that just saw that. But if you're on Spotify, you're doing audio only. Hey,
See, we can
you just dodged the bullet. You trust me, fellas. You guys.
He showed some pictures
Thank
of
you, lucky stars.
Yeah.
his wonderful
Thank you, lucky stars.
dates that he had gone on. They were wonderful.
Speaking
They
of-
were picturesque.
Speaking of dates, so 5, 6, 7, 8 of May. Those are our opening dates, our opening weekends. And this is, I think, this should be continuing through. So it is meant to be 4 days a week, I think. Up to 4 days a week. 4 of them being NA. APAC does 3 days, something like that. I mean, we have a large increase in the amount of games per team, which means a lot more games, generally speaking, overall. Which I think is pretty cool. So that means more Overwatch League action and just more Overwatch League. I mean, can you imagine that? 4 days of Overwatch League per week. That's quite a lot. Like if you're a hardcore fan, you will be well sated with that kind of schedule.
That was draining in the past, by the way.
I mean, it's impossible to keep up.
It's draining if you're watching every single game.
Yes.
No one should be watching every single game.
I'm dying, yeah.
I got paid to cast this game. I didn't even see every single game.
No, yeah. I
People
think
paid
you're
to
doing a
work on-
disservice.
The only person that I know for a fact actually did watch every single game was Hexagrams, and he forced himself to do that. You know, he didn't. I don't think he had to, but he forced himself to do that. And he's the only person I know legitimately for a fact actually watched every single game. I don't know anyone else that watched every single game. So I don't expect anyone. That was last season. We had four games per stage, not 6. So this time around, there's just no way. I think 24 is the sweet spot. I think I said on a previous podcast episode, or maybe on my stream on Twitter somewhere, I said that I would like to see 24 games. Because 28 is probably still... I'd be okay with it. 40 is definitely too long. 28 is okay. But 24 feels like just the right number. Because I was thinking like, well, how many games per stage do I want? 4's too short. 5 is a minor improvement, but I don't think does enough. 6 is a great number. 7 starts to drag on a little. So I think 6 is really the sweet spot.
Yep. Would agree. It's going to be a lot just to consume, but
Yeah.
Wow, only if you're watching every single game.
Yes.
If you are,
it's not going to happen, right? Like there are some absolute deviants that are able to do that, but let's face it, there's going to be some bad teams and you're not going to want to watch those games. And you're going to be like, wow, I could be sleeping now, or I could be literally doing anything.
If it's there is a very interesting proverbial graph on this where there is like in a sort of you have your good games and then you have your bad games, but then it's the same as movies, guys. If it's so you can get a game so bad that it becomes good, just like a movie.
True.
A movie can be so bad that it's
True.
actually becoming good. But you have to really get down. You have to get into the fucking negatives here. You know, once you hit below 0 and you're in the -1, it's suddenly actually good.
Yeah.
So you got to get one of those games.
By the way,
so we are
Moonfall was
gonna
none
get-
of those movies.
Hey,
I saw Moonfall, the new Emmerich movie.
you think that's one of them?
No, that's one that's on the verge of like being very bad, but it tilts over a little, so it's the worst movie experience ever.
I will go see that. I am interested in sci-fi movies, and it does look appealing to me, even though I think it probably will end up being stupid. But
I'm looking forward to talking about that with you. Just real quick, do you know what where the first matches are going to be played? Was there an announcement in there?
online.
Okay.
Online.
Weird choice, by the way.
Well, I don't know actually.
No,
'cause
sorry.
Not Boston. Dallas teased something. Dallas teased.
Right.
I don't know if you want to read
way
into that.
back
I don't want to read into teasers because that could just be bullshit.
Right.
But there is a world where Battle of Texas could be live.
Yeah.
There's a world. There's a world.
I think what is weird about this, why I say this, is like, why is the Paris game not the first game?
Right.
Because because you generally want to make it sort of possible for European audiences to watch this. And
No. The first game they always want to make hype. Last year they made the first game Battle of Texas or something, didn't they?
Right.
It was
Then it's
Your opening game is meant to be like a bigger match. I don't know if LA versus New York is like the bigger match, but it's more exciting than watching Paris get stomped by Shock on day one.
Yeah.
Well, you're still gonna watch that. You're just gonna watch it second, not first.
not sure if Rain against Mayhem isn't the better game then.
Yeah. Well, Rain is
Maybe.
defending. Well, is it because everyone thinks Florida is gonna be one of the worst teams?
Right.
So that
but
probably
like
is
there's a
fine.
lot of history
Really?
there. Like you know.
Okay, it's still gonna be a 3-0. So I don't know how that. Wow, there's a lot of history there.
Same
3-0, boom.
first game as well.
So, oh well, you're quite down in the New York roster.
No, Josiah and Lele.
There's a few options. I don't know. If you could do LA versus Shock game 1, Battle of
I think that would
Battle
be
of California Cup, boom, straight away. And then obviously Valiant can't compete in that for California Cups. It's just Gladiators and Shock now. That would have been a Pog champion first opening game. Like, ooh,
Yeah.
that's
Been
a
spicy.
Poggers. And then you could do Paris versus New York, which would be an okay game as well. So you know, I don't mind that afterwards. But they got LA versus New York first up, where it might be interesting. Might be pretty competitive. Like it depends. Some people are not super hype on all the Gladiators. New York, we're still waiting for more pieces to come on through. I actually think the more hype game is the APAC opening match, which is Shanghai Philadelphia, which probably is. I mean, depending on what the rest of the Philadelphia Fusion roster looks like, but you know, we're expecting Shanghai's to pop off. But Shanghai Philly delivered some good games last season, although you know Philly changed significantly this time around.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of like what, just like from an outskirt viewpoint, like I agree in terms of like the scale of both teams is very different, but it'll be interesting to see what New Look Philly is about, what they can bring to the table in this new game.
And then you have Battle of Texas, where I mean they could have even made that the first game.
Yes.
To be honest with you, that's a more of a 4 storyline, and Dallas has mostly won those. But at the same, and it would also be a repeat of last year. I don't know, like, do you really just want to do? Is that the tradition now? We literally just start with Battle of Texas every year. I mean, I don't know that's the thing to go do either. But so that's got to be at least on the opening weekend. I don't know about what other really hype games. Maybe Spark Soul could be really good, depending on.
Looking at that Chengdu Shanghai game, kind of interesting.
Oh, it'll be interesting. That'd be a reasonable one. I'm actually quite keen to see Toronto as well, so they're going to be full up. I think there are a few teams maybe not playing early. Yeah, there's definitely teams that are not going to be on that opening weekend. So not going to see Valiant. Unlucky.
Yeah.
I would have been keen. Yeah, so go check out the Overwatch League Twitter at Overwatch League, and you can see the opening schedule. It's also on Liquipedia. It's probably also on the Overwatch League website. That is like the big news of the week out of the way. and I
much.
think pretty you know, well broken down as well. I hope. Let me know if you think you agree. So, moving on. What do we got next? Let me have a look.
Got some Rosty
What's the
moves.
news?
Oof.
Rasta moves. Some Rasta moves from Chengdu first. Yiska, would you like to do the honors?
Oh, dude,
This
finally.
has been your favorite. This has been your favorite off-season player. So
I think in hindsight,
You're like-
it was.
I think a Predator to you is like what Rascal is to Reinforce in a way. It's becoming that. It's becoming that a little bit.
In a way, yeah.
I think in hindsight, I went a little hard on the Chinese orcs. I'm not gonna lie. But to be fair, like keep in mind, this was a super late announcement. Chengdu hadn't even made space. No other team had announced a Predator. I was like, what is going on? Like, probably was always stupid to assume that nobody would pick him up. Then again, same true for Dia. We'll see.
True.
We'll talk again in half a year. But like, yeah, I mean, this is what a delicious DPS line, right? Like, it's really like conceive of me a meta without using new heroes that these three can't cover, right? Like even double projectile or whatever is no problem for this one. Double hit scan is no problem. Like they have tracer covered. I don't know. Like if anything, I think if you want to be skeptical of this, you probably would have to ask yourself if Leaf still has the projectile unlock. To which I say yes. How dare you? It's Leaf. But yeah, like everything else is just like totally covered, and I mean, definitely contending for one of the best. Or the best DPS line in Overwatch League.
Yep.
Yeah.
Would agree.
It's right up there. You covered everything. Huge skill level across the board. A lot of it does come from Leave. I still have reservations about Jimmu and particular heroes, but I think they have enough flexibility with everyone else to cover all the gaps. And who knows, maybe Jimmu's been in the hyperbolic time chamber. I give people the benefit of the doubt. Maybe they've improved in the offseason. A new game anyway. So, maybe different. We'll see what heroes are going to be played. We'll see there's going to be new heroes as well. Everyone's going to have to pick new stuff up and adjust their hero pools. So, but in general, I think Chengdu did a fantastic job here. We all knew a Predator was coming. It was just a matter of when, not an if. Because there's no way they fumble that badly. Not with someone that's already on their academy. Like you had enough of foresight to get this guy on your academy team, but not on your main roster. Come on, you don't make that kind of mistake. If you for a team that specifically has promoted people from the academy team like a lot, you simply don't make that mistake. You're not that stupid. So, Predator's on. Kenobi's obviously very happy, and I think not a surprising. This is just more like a confirmation of something we all basically all already knew. Worst kept secret in the offseason in terms of roster moves. So well done, Chengdu. You've unlocked the DPS line that I think everyone wished you had last year, but is happy that you finally have it now. Any further comments on a Predator? Pretty straightforward, pretty standard.
No, yeah. Glad to see him finally in the league. Excited to see what can be done with him on the main stage.
Yeah, it's an exciting Chinese pickup because I feel like there's not always that many new exciting Chinese players coming through. There was last year because of CC. This time around, I feel like it was mostly a Predator was like the dude. And everyone else after that was like they existed, but really it's about a Predator. Yes. JJoNak though has announced, or Seoul and JJoNak have both announced that they are parting ways. The specific reasoning was said that JJoNak is taking a break, and then I think JJoNak's own tweet specified that he was dealing with some sort of health issue. So it could be an injury, something else. And yeah, Seoul they completed their team. It looked pretty damn good. Now they have to refill an open flex spot. They still have creative on the team, but I think the goal with Seoul is that they want 2 flex supports.
100%.
So I don't know what they do now, because I think losing JJoNak, all the JJoNak haters are like, yeah, but who cares? But I think losing JJoNak's a pretty big deal.
Yes.
So now they are going to have to really scramble to find the next best guy.
Great.
Like, I understand the initial, like, oh, well, you guys just have creative. He's very underrated. I think what people tend to like battle with is like this mutual exclusivity between somebody being underrated and somebody being good, right? Like you can have JJoNak be a good player, one of the top flex supports. I don't know if I denote top 5 anymore. But without a doubt, among some of the world class talent at the position, and creative can be, you know, maybe underrated by people in the community who don't think they're very good, and you know, maybe I'm one of them. Um, you can have both things at once, like, and then that doesn't mean that they also can't get somebody else. That doesn't mean that creative's going to be benched. Um, he has been very surprising. He's had his moments, but do you take a couple seasons of being good, or you know, a career of being good? You know, a career of, well, maybe not a career defining the position, but at least, you know, reaching the peak to literally, you know, change how the league viewed flex supports, and you know, kind of crafting a pseudo position around a character almost. It's, I think we're conflating some things, and yeah, I don't know. I think we, as much as maybe he gets a little bit of flack, I think we need to put a little bit more respect on JJonak's name.
Yeah, for sure. I think people are generally. I don't know what the. Do you guys have an understanding of where most people rank JJoNak or like his performance last year?
It's pretty wild. People, it's all over the show. I think it's pretty all over the show. Some people rate him very low. Other people still think he's pretty good. I still think he's pretty good.
Ditto.
I think probably the average is just like probably just out of top 5 somewhere, somewhere between 6 and 10 maybe.
Yep.
Probably.
So I think that would be accurate. Because flick support did get quite competitive.
Very.
And
very
now this is probably the best time ever in Overwatch League history to be a flex support player, because the demand for flex supports has never been higher. Every team wants 2 of them for good reason, but every team wants 2 of them. So with 20 teams, that's like 40 fucking flex supports if everyone gets 2.
Yep.
Right. I'm trying to think of anyone who's got like 3, but I think they just got 2. But my point is like there's such a high demand that like teams are running out of options. Like I've seen people bring up Kareev to come back, but like, well, Kareev's gone to the military. I'm sure if Kareev didn't go to the military, someone would pick it up.
Yeah,
I think
maybe
he'd be on a team this year. Maybe he. I don't know if it's like done. Like he signed the papers and he has to go in the military now, or like if a team reaches out, like Seoul reaches out, like, your Kareev, are you available? Like, brother, we need somebody now. You know, he probably can get on a team for legit, because after that, I think you're looking at, from the Korean side of things, you're looking at guys like probably Quasid is one of my is my rookie pick if you're going to pick a rookie coming through. I think Quasid is solid. Quasid's also been on Gen G before. He's currently on G Super Saiyan, but he's been on Gen G before. So there's that link back to Seoul if they want to go in that direction. But yeah, like I think there's a lot of, I don't think, and because everyone's trying to get 2 and hold on to them, no one's trading. It's not like you can go up to another team and be like, yo, can I have your dude? Because I don't think anyone's gonna, not especially right now, no one's gonna sell their dudes just yet. Maybe at a mid-season pickup, but I think Seoul are probably gonna look for somebody now.
Yeah, I think you're gonna need to. Funnily enough, you know, to the Kareev comment, looking at, you know, the hypotheticals around, you know, how much playmaking can be done possibly with Overwatch 2, right? We don't know. But maybe if it turns out to be that type of game, I actually kind of wish we would have gotten to see him. Same thing with JJoNak as well. Like it's kind of a shame that we might not be able to see 2 of like the more flashy flex supports in some ways. Like not be able to like really, you know, give them the toolbox in some ways.
And God, like RIP Alarm as well. Like,
oh, for sure, without a doubt.
Like
that kid would have, you know.
Yeah.
That's
what a loss.
Bigger travesty for sure.
Yeah, for sure. No, that would have been. Yeah, nah, Joe, leave that please untouched. We just killed that dream. Okay, like
you don't want to see Kareev, you know, maybe pop off, hit a couple sleep darts.
I mean, to be honest, like if he really pops off and like he's legitimately a top performer again, I would say after. Not sure if he ever was, but like yeah, of course. Like I don't say no to people based on who they are. Like is just like my fear always is that you're taking a spot from a guy that could, right?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, without a doubt.
So
I just don't know how many guys that could exist currently. I don't know who those.
I'd
who
rather
these
give
guys
Quasit a chance, right? Like,
oh, I would love to give Quasit a chance. I think they're gonna have to because there's not that many options left. There really isn't. You know, I'm even looking at some of the Chinese teams to see if there's a random Korean player on there that might be keen, but no, unless you want like to get physics or somebody from T1W, you know, it's just not. You're starting to scrape the barrel just a little bit here if you don't go for Quasit.
yeah.
And I was pretty big on Quasit not even just last year, but the year before, like 2020. I was like, dude, this Quasit guy's okay. It's kind of good. Like he's done all right. Like he wasn't my number one pick, but you know, he was high enough that I, you know, if people were trying to go through the rankings, and he'd probably get a shot. And this is definitely the best time now if anyone did want to go for him, and probably will end up being Seoul. But I do believe Philly is still looking for a flex support as well. So
you'd imagine so, right? Like,
yeah, there's that because Philly need a Korean player, and they don't have. Well, we are assuming they want a second flex support because I got Aim God Fixer. No disrespect to Aim God, but like if he can get on a team, dude, I'm sure Kareev could have been on a team this year. So
yeah, maybe, yeah.
So yeah, there is that. What else do we have here? So that happened.
Speaking of flex sports,
here's one guy that's off the market now. That I actually, the more I think about, the more we've talked about the demand of flex supports, the more I'm like, maybe Moon really is a genius.
Yeah,
because he'll probably never use Bebe, who they just announced the Dragons, but he's actually just denied it from everybody else, who probably would have used Bebe. So could actually kind of like Ninehead from Moon. I'll give it to him in a market where the number of good flex supports remaining is quite slim. Snatching up someone like Bebe is like kind of decent value currently.
Oh,
you know,
without a doubt. I think to your point, you know, previously talking about, you know, the possibility of having this double flex support meta, talking about, you know, maybe the more versatility of this support lineup in general, looking at somebody like Lee Jae-gon and what other kind of talents he might have under the hood. Adding somebody like Bebe, it's like, not only are you taking it away, like you said, but you're giving yourself like an assurance policy. Like, he's fine. He's like the most capital G good and like fine that there is. Like, he's never gonna like. I couldn't name you a season where like he looked like a detriment on the teams that he was on. He was just.
Can you imagine if like he finally gets away from Decay and he's just a god now? Like he's unlocked. The shackles are off, baby. The ball and chain is off.
It's possible.
And now he's just popping.
Saying.
Did Decay also put him on him during the Spark era, or how does that work?
He was fine on the Spark, but then you're
What is
playing
fine?
for the Spark. What is fine?
That's true. You're playing for the Spark.
I mean, it's a different jail cell. I think.
Hey, what's your? Would you rather play for the Spark or play with Decay? Pick your poison. Which one would you rather do?
That's a dilemma.
And those things are not even mutually exclusive. In a particular
I plead the fifth.
In a certain world, those things are not mutually exclusive.
Right.
That's the final bag. That's the final bag.
Bag getters. No, I feel like Bebe like is the line of like fine, especially at his position, like at flex support. Like if you're ranked under Bebe, there's some issues. You've got some problems. Like you can't play a certain hero, right? Like Bebe plays the field all right. He has his moments where he looks like very, very good, has his playmaking moments. Outside of that, he's never bad, right? He's never like a detriment. He's never like throwing out an ultimate. I can't think of too many times where I've been like, oh, I don't know, maybe that was a little early, Bebe, or that positioning was a little weird. More often than not, I'm like, hey, you know, I think we need to put some respect and really kind of talk about Bebe as like being like a decent flex support.
Is he like by definition league average?
I would say so.
Like
at the position,
if you were to name a league average player, would a photo of Bebe's incredibly huge smile just be there?
I think so.
Mm.
For his position.
That the Bebe picture is just there under league average
So
definition.
he feels like it, but I wonder if he would be if you actually made the list.
Oh, I don't know. That's possible that he isn't. Who else? Who do you? If not Bebe, then who? In
Name
your
God.
mind?
Name God's going to be league average this year.
Nah,
Possibly.
it's also
possibly.
lower.
Boom, exactly in the middle. You look at that. You look at the
JJoNak.
you look at the bell curve. My man is just boom, 50th percentile.
Joan, and you're going off of like last season? Like, what do you mean?
No, this
JJonak's
season it would have
above
probably
50th
been.
percentile. JJonak's better than 50th percentile.
No
Come on.
shot. Yeah.
Yeah,
no.
not much though. He's like maybe
What?
eighth best.
Brother, dude, I watched JJoNak last year and he
Okay.
still did some
He was
crazy stuff.
good.
So okay,
still
who's
did
better?
some really
Okay,
cool
okay, before we just, Twilight is
Okay,
better,
yeah.
Shu is better,
Yep,
Violet
yep.
is better.
Yep.
I'm starting. Fielder is better. Okay.
Sure.
I soon will have to reach hot take level. Iris is better.
no.
Was he?
What?
No.
Iris is a BAP one trick. Is he really better?
I think so.
I thought Iris. I think
Maybe
Iris
in a
is
BAP
good.
1v1.
I
Maybe
think
in a
he's a lot
BAP
closer to
1v1.
Bebe.
Okay. I mean, I'm about to throw out some absolute hot takes.
You're about
I'm
to
going-
Yeah, you're gonna.
I'm
you're gonna
about
be
to
like, oh,
scorch.
Khan was better.
I'm about to scorch.
start saying
I
shit
think
like that?
I think Ultraviolet will be better.
Oh, don't talk about new players. We're talking about last year.
No, I was talking about this year. I was saying like this year, JJoNak would have been an average flex support in the
No.
league.
No. Mm-mm.
I mean, we're at six. We're at six. Maybe I can squeeze out. So, like, there's like a, it's not the average, but like, there's some standard deviation from which still counts as average.
No. Would JJoNak be better than Monk?
That's a good question.
Ooh.
There you go. That's a good question.
I don't know. I think Monk had a better team.
Did
I think
Sure.
JJonak's team was
Agreed.
struggling. Let me put it this way. I saw bigger carry moments out of JJoNak than like definitely than Monk. Monk had like maybe a couple.
Mm.
I don't know if that's like the metric to judge a flex support on, but JJoNak showed me enough carry performances that
Mhm.
I could specifically look at it and be like, yo, JJoNak won this game by
Yeah.
doing X and Y things.
What about
Totally.
And I
Crimzo?
feel like that's what you need. You need that X factor out of a flex support player. Because if you just get a guy that just like passes, he's a C average
Mm.
and he just kind of exists, that guy won't win you games.
Yeah.
But JJoNak will give you those A+ performances where he can be the factor that wins you a game.
Mhm.
So I saw that last year.
Agreed. When you shine on a bad team that is underperforming, I think that speaks to
Especially on
the
support.
character. Yeah, that's not easy. To Yiska's little jab there with Crimzo, I do think
it wasn't a jab. I was seriously asking.
no, I
Was
know.
Crimzo really worse than JJoNak last year?
Statistically, I would be very interested to see. Feeling wise, that hurts my heart. That could even be a possibility.
I saw.
I think it
bigger
very
carry
much was.
moments out of JJoNak than
I
like
know.
half
I
the
think
people you listed.
the problem is that Crimzo generally excelled at, like, he was a pretty good Moira, for instance, like, or is historically.
I think his Ana was like, and I
think-
could be very wrong, but I think statistically his Ana is like highly.
You know what the problem with
ranked.
this discussion is? NA played such different flex supports to APAC. APAC was all
True.
Ana Zen,
True.
and then NA played Moira BAP.
Yeah.
So like, you didn't even get this crossover. You can't even be like, well, let's compare these two
Yeah.
Anas. It's like, well, one region didn't even fucking play Ana. So
Mhm.
Yeah, no, that's true.
then JJoNak never played BAP because APAC don't play that. They don't do those comps.
Yeah, no,
Yeah, not nearly as much.
yeah, maybe he's slightly above average by that definition.
Yeah, I think I'm more agreeable to that. Slightly above average. It's a different game. There's more competition. You have people like Ultraviolet coming in this year. That people like Aim God coming back. There's going to be a lot of competition at the role, and maybe JJoNak. It's closer to what I think is true.
But yeah, I think like to get to the Bebe point, I think he would, by the same metric. Okay, name me worse flex supports next year.
Then Bebe.
Yeah.
Let's take a look.
Worst would be
Let's put the graphic on here
probably
and keep it on for you guys as well.
honestly, maybe Krillin could be worse. I think Josh's might have actually
Yeah?
downgraded. Krillin could be worse. It's possible. Vigilante will be better for sure, but they don't get Vigilante till a little bit later on. Maybe I'm
Aztec?
hating a little. Maybe I'm hating a little bit, but I think better than Khan.
Oh,
Which
that's
might be-
hating. Oh, that's hating. That is hating.
Maybe.
You are
I
one of the
don't
biggest
know.
haters. You
YouTube comments, let us know.
if the fans could vote between the three of us, who is the biggest hater historically? It would always be you.
No, of
comment.
course.
Leave a
Yes,
comment.
it would be.
You'd win that competition hands down.
Yes. Yes.
Do you
But-
see? Do you see? Also, somebody commented that you'd be the type of motherfucker to get your rib removed. By the way,
Yeah.
you're a real one. You know who you are.
Yeah.
Shout outs.
Yep.
Baby might be better than Aztec, although I think Aztec had like a really, I don't know, man. He's an interesting one because I've seen Aztec pop off when he was in Contender's career, and then for whatever reason, that never happened on what team was he on last year? This is how forgettable he was. Toronto, right? Is he in Toronto?
Yeah.
Did he even play? Did he get any
He and Lastro both feel like the same person in like multiple ways. Like in their
So,
career, like I
well,
have a hard time
in that
differentiating
case-
the two.
In that case, Baby may be better than Lastro as well. Then
I think there's a possibility like they contend, and I would probably put a lot more faith in Bebe because we've seen him be as consistent as he is throughout like a few years, right? Like you come pre-Apex, you come into the Overwatch League, you're fine, you're good. It's just the benchmark, right? I look at some of the rookies, I'm like, I don't know, Florida, is that really where, you know, is he going to be better or worse than Bebe? It's
Majed.
yeah, I think he's good. I'm excited to see him play on stage. I just don't know if he's going to meet that benchmark.
You know where this discussion will break down is the team quality of Bebe versus the team quality of Majed is just so astronomically different that like Shanghai's unbelievably huge donger is just going to cover up any mistakes Bebe makes anyway.
Yeah.
True.
Like Bebe could fuck up and Shanghai could just win with 5. Like, you know, it doesn't even matter. So they'll never even be punished for Bebe's mistakes if he makes them.
True.
And then again, like I'm the same person that said like Bebe is not really a liability last year. Which I still remain. I think it wasn't a bad take, even in hindsight now. I don't think Bebe was the reason why that didn't go off. But yeah, I think like it's just like the tide is rising so heavily that like basically like all the people we've talked about as like bottom level have been lauded as like the next coming.
Oh,
like
yeah,
think of Lastro, like a guy like Lastro, where like I had to have discussions with people that actually like have very respectable opinions otherwise, where they said like Lastro was a bit bigger impact player during certain contender seasons than Alarm was, right? Like that was the type of discussion we were having. Now, didn't really hold up in Overwatch League yet, but like many of those players have these stories. Krillin has this comeback story, certainly. Aztec had a lot of gas coming in like at the start of last year. Okay, so Ultraviolet definitely has that now. A lot of people trade Khan highly. Like, let's go through the list again. Who else? I mean, a lot of you guys are pretty high on Creative as well, even though there's probably not that narrative that he could be like the next world beater. Coldest certainly was mentioned as like the next Chinese talent at some point in time.
Yeah.
By you.
No, I was very much and maybe I'm misremembering, but I remember having very, very heated conversations with Kenobi about the differences between Molly and Coldest. I think he probably was at one point like the next step up, but maybe I was that better.
You know what happened? I figured it out. I figured out the story of Aztec. I think Uprising Academy must have ruined him. Because he was great on WGS, and then he went to Uprising Academy, and then he went to Toronto. I'm like, bro, this guy's invisible now. Maybe Toronto mishandled him. You know, maybe like they just I don't know forgot to add him to the Discord. Like they thought he was Logic or somebody. They're like, oh, I just didn't put him in Discord. and then Aztec was too humble to speak up, and so he just never got any comms.
By the way, Myeongbong is better than Bebe as well, right?
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah, Myeongbong's had higher highs, that's for sure, with a worse team.
Yep.
He had some high. I don't know about last year, but definitely the year before in 2020, Myeongbong had some big ass highs on Boston.
Right.
For what is like unanimously agreed to be on a pretty poor roster as far as Boston goes, Myeongbong's still popping off on that roster. Like says a lot about his capability. I think his ability started to fall off a little bit. I would like to see how he does this year. I'm still hopeful that Myeongbong pops off. He's on a full Korean team now. He's with New York. He's under Kuki. He's playing with guys like Kellen, Flora, Yaki Gangnam Jin, right? So I got high hopes for him. But yeah, Flick support got really competitive. And just even like you know, talking about the last trip one as well, I think there's very few players I look at in the league in this year where I'm like, this guy is just not good enough to be here. Like I think 99.9%, 99, well, just 99% of players coming into this year, I'm like, yeah, I think absolutely. They're league quality. Like they will be league quality. If you compare that to previous, let's compare who the league average player this year is versus 2020. Like the league average player this year in 2020 might be one of the top players.
Yeah.
Legit. Like might be one of the top players. So that's how high the skill level of the league has leveled up again. This happens every year.
Do you remember the time when Lengsa was like considered like a top 5 widow in the league?
I think people
we
still
power creep the fuck out of
season 1, wasn't it?
Yeah, season 1.
Yeah, season 1.
Yeah.
The counter widow. Yeah.
No, we've been rising the tide. It's like incredible.
For sure.
That's
every year.
That's before we got, inducted into the Church of Arns. So
true.
2020 Arns to be specific, not 2021 Arns. But that's neither here or there.
By the way, that is an interesting topic, probably for another podcast episode to me as well. But has there been a decline on some roles? That is something I like because,
like averagely.
Yes.
On an average?
Yeah.
A decline?
Yeah. At any point.
Some of this is meta dependent. You have to remember.
Yeah.
Hitscan got a really bad meta last year. So it would be unfair to be like, well, Hitscan declined. Well, they never even got to play.
Yeah.
So
same with Gods.
They got ruined by the meta. So I mean, yeah. So I don't know. I don't even think that would be like a. It sounds like a very complicated topic to get in because it's so meta dependent.
Yep.
Any final thoughts on Bebe?
Nope.
Lengsa is official and Valiant now.
Of course.
Joe, you're a big Valiant guy, aren't you? Where you at
I'm
with
huge. Me and Valiant go way back. LGE. Let's go, my guys. No Hill. I'm coming for you.
Yeah, you and Tay. You and Tay Zombie, big on Valiant. Give me what you got on Valiant.
I think Lengsa in general has been like a main sup that. Am I even getting that right? Please tell me I'm getting that right. I am.
Hey, he's a main sup, yes.
Got that right.
You're so big on Valiant, you don't know what role Lengsa played.
There's one person out there that like understands what I'm talking about when I talk about, fucking that up. He's been around for a long time and been somebody that's like, he could probably be in, but like, what team do you put him on? We don't, there's no other like Chinese org. Now that there is, I think it's just like a nice fit. It's fine. I don't know that he's gonna like be
Valiant.
Pretty much, right? Like, I think this will be like in a very backhanded compliment style. Like I think he'll start to become like or is a good candidate for like a benchmark at main support, or for whatever that looks like in Overwatch 2. Like I think he's going to be fine. I don't think he's going to be a liability by any stretch.
What? He's got the no-hill buff.
Exactly, which should help. I think the team in general has some extracurriculars to kind of pull from. I don't think many people are looking at Valiant as like a competitive team. I think they get to come in with a lot of underdog attitude, and that should benefit them in general. How that benefits Lengsa doesn't really matter, but I think giving that buff to the team kind of trickles down to the players, and I think that Lengsa should be fine. It doesn't.
You know what?
It's not like a huge signing for me.
This year's LA Valiant, I think could have been very competitive in season 3. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just remember,
think so.
season 3. Season 3 was the
Yep.
was the Dallas Fuel Valorant roster bench. Yeah,
Yeah.
was the Seoul doing nothing in the regular season. Yeah, with the Marvel main tank. Wait, no, the Marvel. I don't even know. Seoul didn't even know what the hell they were doing in the Marvel that
Yeah.
year.
Had they killed
What
the
else?
flame in Houston?
Hey,
Had the flame gone out in Houston yet?
I think it was waning.
was there ever a flame? Was it ever on? Was it ever ignited, Yiska? That's a better question.
Maybe last season. Ironically, when the
Okay,
flame.
no, I'll give you that. I'll give you that. No, I will give you that. There was a flame last season. It didn't last long,
True.
but there was a flame. You're right. You're right.
Yeah, for
I'll
the
give you
first
that.
time. There
Give you
was a
that.
flame in Houston.
No. Stage 1, season 1, they had a flame as well. That was the Lengsa stage.
Mhm.
Lengsa popped off. Speaking of Outlaws,
Sure.
I think, bro, maybe this year's Valiant could have been season 3 Outlaws. Maybe
I'd have to look that up. Who was even on
six.
that?
Well, Lengsa, Blase, Muma, Boink, Jixa,
Oh, yeah,
Dante,
actually,
Hydration,
yeah.
Maker, Repel.
Sorry, Dream. Yeah, probably.
Toronto Defiant for sure. I'm sorry, guys. Toronto Defiant.
Yeah.
Manga True
Yeah.
Logics, Agility
Yeah,
Short
no.
for Zik Beast, Numlock, Nevix, Rookie, Kareev, Cruz. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're going down.
Gotta
They're going
go.
down to my
Gotta go.
No Hills playing with his food on that team in that matchup, 100%. Boston get ruined
Yeah,
by
nope.
Valiant in that matchup.
Yeah,
Just so the point of me bringing that up is I think Valiant are going to be last place in APAC this year. But the worst team in APAC this year would be like
mid-table.
top 10 in season 3. Really,
Yeah,
no,
for
no
sure.
shit, no shit.
For sure.
100% top 10 in season 3.
Yeah.
That's the level of skill increase that we've had in the league over the last 2 years.
Yeah, that's some
Crazy,
power
right?
creeping. Yeah.
Crazy.
No.
I do like that about our little stepchild of an esport, right? We get new talent in and they're always better. Like it feels like we're never really down
Yeah.
And that-
any kind of positions.
And isn't it nuts that it's still like this, despite like basically contenders being kicked repeatedly while on the
Hey, you
ground
said
and
it,
shot
not me.
behind
You
the
said it, not
barn?
me.
Like,
I think years ago, Yiska, you had a very gray point about, when you kind of have a fucked up system, you tend to get like some of the best, like the most brightest stars. Like when you starve somebody as much as we've starved contenders,
Yeah.
you
No,
really
Joe.
get the cream of the crop.
What you're really trying to say there is it's so bad that you have to be unbelievably dedicated to still go through that system to try and make out.
Mm-hmm.
Like to have the mental fortitude, you'd be like, yeah, fuck it, I might just play in this and just like just do nothing for a year. Real, like you have to really have some unbelievable mental fortitude and like hopium to go through that system. And so if you have that as a baseline and you do go through that system and you do get picked up, you're probably like a god. That's
Yeah.
why like there's still so many rookies coming on through that are just insane.
yeah. It's like you had a litter of kittens, right? And you go like,
Shit, where
when
we
your
going?
parent.
Don't hurt the kittens. Don't hurt the kittens, Yiska.
Okay, then. Okay.
Cross the line.
And then-
Where are you going with that?
Okay, then I can't continue the story. No, but like you go to your parents like, what are we going to do with them? Well, we're going to send them to a nice farm. and
Right.
then, dad goes with the kittens behind the barn and buries them 3
Wow.
feet under the grass. And those that come out alive out of that, they gotta be Terminators, right? Like those.
But they they like unearth themselves.
Yeah.
And
And
thus,
thus,
plot to a horror
and
movie.
thus,
Okay.
and thus proper.
I'm gonna assume this is some German analogy that I
Dude.
just don't understand.
Dude, do you?
Like
Do
a
you?
normal thing you say in Germany, but in the rest of the world, it's like, what the fuck is that?
Are you guys not aware of the atrocious German fairy tales?
No.
Oh, why would I be aware of that?
So even Family Guy made fun of that. It's like basically like all our German fairy tales is like, unironically, okay, here's the short version of
Hansel and Gretel.
that's one, right? But it's also like, okay, so there's one kid that always looks in the air, and his mom says, "Don't look in the air, or like you're going to hurt yourself." And then he says no, and he's called Hans Guck in die Luft, which means Hans always looks in the air. And then he just falls in the channel and drowns. The end.
What?
Or there's a guy that doesn't like eating his food or his soup. It's called Suppenkasper. So he literally starves.
And what does that stand for?
What do you mean?
The German word.
Suppenkasper, it's like soup Casper, like clown. Soup.
Soup. Dead person of soup.
Dude, another guy always sucks his thumbs, so his mom cuts his thumbs off.
What's his name?
Whoa,
What's
thumbs
his
are
name?
important, man. That's kind of
wait,
I didn't know his name.
um,
You guys have the worst names.
we have the wait. I would have to look those up.
God.
There's Max and Moritz.
fair enough.
And who's that?
Max and Moritz are like always like the shit kids that just like do all
No,
kinds
it's
of
like the
pranks.
the direct translation.
No, Max and Moritz is just like Max and Moritz. And
Okay.
they just like piss everyone in the city off until they fall into like the mill, and they just got milled to death and made to bread. Dude, like all our fairy tales are like this. Like
You better behave or you die.
children get, and then you have like these drawn illustrations.
Mm-hmm.
Like, wait,
I just can't get over these names, bro. I can't.
There's
a story about this egg
where
that sat
are
on
we
a hill.
going?
We called him Egg Sitter. Like,
I'm gonna link you. This is a
God.
legitimate German fairy tale. Here you go.
Okay. No one at home understands what's going on right now, but
I'm not sure I do.
yeah, the 2 out of 3 people on this show right now don't understand what's going on.
That's the fun of it.
So I don't. What did the German fairy tale say about Lengsa? Yiska, come on.
Yeah.
Oh,
Bring it back. Bring it back. Re-rail us.
I mean-
Rail us back on the railroad.
yeah, he's 6 feet under the farm barn.
Wow.
Think he's gonna be bad?
Right. No who'll dig him out. No who'll dig him out. No who will protect the kitten. Other Valiant news is they signed some sort of deal with Nanjing government to be operated on Nanjing. I don't think that's anything to read into. It's
No, just
okay,
like where
yeah,
they're
they're
understand.
gonna be based in Nanjing. Cool. That's basically what it is, right? So
Yes.
nothing extreme. Don't expect a Nanjing homestand anytime soon, guys. In case anyone was, it's not gonna happen. So that's all the Valiant news, and we still don't have another tank on Valiant. That's getting a little bit concerning. They need to do something about that soon. Valiant still have some holes in their roster they got to plug up, so that'll come, hopefully.
Should.
Where's aiming yet? You know, they're not. They still don't, leaving my boy out to dry.
Sign.
All right. Next bit of news. We are going to so we'll just go over charge real quickly. There's not giant stuff there, but this is going to be a real gloss over, just because we might as well. Youngjin, who you'd remember from Shanghai Dragon Season 3, also responsible for one of the most egregiously bad C9s of all history, is now assistant coach of Guangzhou Charge. Guangzhou Charge have also released or parted ways with their data analyst as well, which I don't think people really knew, but was a guy called Sibo. So he's gone. So now instead of SIBO, they can just have plus SIBO, where they think they're getting some analysis, but they're not. And that's all the charge news. That's all the charge news. Hey, Yiska's got his girlfriend on his face again. Anyway,
Well,
big. I think another quite cool thing that actually happened was, you know, the Facebook relationship official of Shock and Ultra Plus. I mean, these two have been flirting back and forth. You know, they've been sending each other, they've been sexting, they've been giving each other little winks and blowing kissy faces at each other, and, you know, little exos in the text chats. And now there's just like, you know what? Fuck it. They're gonna put each other in their Twitter bios, Facebook official that shit. Shock and O2 Blast officially kissing in a tree.
So, should I give you some rumors from behind the scenes how that relationship has always worked? Is like, so the rumor tells it, okay, don't hate me for this. Like, don't make like the absolute, like, definitely if you have to make a Reddit thread about this, please say that it's rumored and whatnot. But the reason, or one of the big reasons why it is rumored why Krusty very often also gets the most talented people is because he gets them in contenders and actually already does coaching, one-on-one coaching with these guys, like Violet, for instance, right? Where he already, even when they're not signed under his org, technically, he builds these relationships not just by building them. A lot of teams do that and like sort of introduce themselves and sort of like, you know, put their number into the cell phone of the player that they're coaching for like a year or whatever. But like Krusty apparently already does a significant amount of one-on-one coaching with them. Is basically the reason why a lot of people speculate that he's getting all these top tier.
And also, Chris Chung can just show up and like
he's also amazing at this.
High five O2 Boss anytime he wants to and be like, "What's up, dude?"
Yes, it's a big part, dude. Like a lot of deals, especially this offseason, feel like Koreans seem to have which I totally understand, by the way, or like can appreciate. They tend to value if you make an effort for them. Meaning, if you show up for an actual physical dinner, they will consider you more strongly. And deals have busted this season. Some people have fumbled building actually really good teams based on not doing that. Right?
You didn't invite O2 Blast to dinner. That's where they went wrong.
Yes. Yeah. Got to pay for the bill, man.
I'll be straight with you, though. I'll be straight with you. As much as it sounds like Shock have been finessing the entire time, and getting way, deep in the pants of O2 Blast for years. Still to date, I proclaim that nobody has finessed a player out of O2 Blast as heavily as Huck did to get Myungbong.
Yeah.
To date. Huck, like, my guy went in and did a drive-by quickie or something. I don't know how the fuck he went. He was in and out, like boom, Myung.
Yeah.
And Myungbong was his, done. Done deal. That's more alpha than anything Chris Chung and Krusty have ever done to finesse a play out of O2 Blast.
Myungbong could have been Iris. Right? Like, I remember a public statement, I think from Sephi, if I could be wrong, but pretty sure there was something like this, where it was like, Sephi was like, okay, this guy was gone from the market before we even had a chance to get at him. Like he probably got like an ultimatum offer. He was scared not to make it, but like a lot of teams were actually interested. Good move. I can't hate it. Like if you get that guy, then right. Yeah.
And I mean, Myungbong actually he decided to stay after that season 3. Yeah.
Yes.
They like didn't do well. He was like, yeah, I'll stay for season 4.
Yeah.
So and that was of his own accord. We think maybe he made that call under duress with a gun to his head. We don't know, but we'll assume that, we'll assume Huck didn't do that and that he didn't make that choice.
I mean, you
with
can
sound mind,
appreciate
of sound
that. Given the direction with Laurie, I think there was some reason to believe as a player that this was going to...
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
No, I do joke. I do jest about that. But so for people that still don't actually know what happened, because I've been cryptic. I've been unnecessarily cryptic with my speech. So what actually happened is Shock and O2 Blast are partnered up for having O2 Blast as their academy team officially. Shock used to have an academy ages ago called NRG, which actually was where Face comes from. Face, current head coach of LA Gladiators, used to be on NRG a long time ago, back in 2019, I think it was.
Yep.
Or maybe even earlier than that. But they haven't had an academy team since NRG, since 2019, when that was the peak of contenders pre-COVID. I still think COVID really ruined contenders in a way as well, because that kind of just destroyed all hope for international events. And that's 2019 was like when the contenders were starting to peak in terms of international events. Right. That aside, though, this is like when you're like in school, and there's these two people, they're clearly into each other, they haven't admitted their feelings yet, and now it's like they finally have, and it's just like bam, they're just. I haven't seen them leave their bedroom in 3 days. So Shock and O2 Blast, they meant for each other. They're good. These sexual references are getting out of hand. I'll stop. And it's an adult show, guys. I know kids don't listen to this show. It's fine. Only people. I think the average age of our listeners must be 30. Sorry, that's me describing the panel that we have on the podcast. But also, yeah, no, probably the audience as well. So, I'm just sexually frustrated from Valentine's, guys. That's the truth. That's the honest truth. Shock and O2 Blast. I'm unhinged. You know, no shackles on me today. Shock and O2 Blast. They're fucking, yeah, they're fucking, I guess. But they have been for so long anyway. They have been anyway. I'm like, I had my COVID, I had my my booster shot 2 days ago.
Okay.
Really?
So I've still got no, yesterday. No, I actually had it yesterday.
How are you feeling?
Well, I've had to mute a couple times, but I'm like holding back coughs. You might be able to hear it in me. I'm like holding back coughs as I'm speaking. It's because my body thinks I have COVID.
Nice.
So I fooled my body into thinking I have all the downsides of COVID without actually getting COVID, which I feel quite cheated out of that conversation. That it's not a good deal for me, isn't it? So
yeah, definitely take it slow. It really knocked me on my ass when I had it.
So that's cool. I mean, we haven't even commented on. I guess we sort of commented on what we think about it. It's a good thing. Like, your more academy teams, always good, always good. And O2 Blast has been like the best team in contenders the entire last year, and most of the year before that as well. So O2 Blast for a while now, they've basically established a dynasty in contenders Korea. And they export unbelievably good talent. I feel like every single year. You know, we got Pelican last year. This year we have a bunch of players, proper Fin Kilo. Quality in that order as well, by the way. That was a specific order I listed. And more. There was more. There's actually, I think, yeah, you got Chio out of that team as well. So there's a bunch. I think Vindame came out of that team. So there's a shitload of players that come out of O2 Blast. And then next year as well, the O2 Blast just announced, I think they've got some real heavy hitters on their team going to next year being this year. Where I think Heesang's on the team now, which is, if he was old enough, he would be in the league this year if he was old enough. Heesang, Spectra, like, Jesus Christ, guys. Max and Jumbin and FaZe are still there as returning players. So I mean, yeah, this is your incubated team. This is the team that just like develops, produces, and then exports unbelievably good talent. So every year you're gonna get like some crazy talent come out of O2 Blast, and that should not change anytime soon. So the fact that Shock have just locked that up and just locked that pipeline up is, I mean, that's a finesse move in and of itself.
That's a huge deal. Getting like you said, tapping into that talent pipeline. That's 3-peat energy if I've ever seen it.
What do you mean 3-peat energy? You can't have a 3-peat.
I guess it's not a 3-peat anymore. That's true.
Yeah. And the wise words of Hawk, 3-peat my asshole.
True. Making championship moves regardless.
Alrighty. So other than that, we have an experimental patch, which should be cool. One day they'll get me on that. Although, like, the amount of changes that I would want to implement, they would have to be. I would have to be the only person working on that experimental patch. I'll just do the whole thing. I'll give them Overwatch 3 out of that. You know what I'm saying? I don't think they will. Cowards. It's just too many cowards. They don't want me to prove that I could balance this game to reach its full potential. You know, I have that power within me, but they're not gonna. They don't want me to upstart them or anything. Show off a little bit. But so we had that long ass discussion about game design. That people then incorrectly paraphrased me with on Reddit a little bit later on. So it'll be fun, I guess. I don't have a lot to talk about for Experimental Cups. Great initiative, lots of fun.
Yeah.
Not that I've played in them personally, but it's something to do, and well received by the community. Yeah. Is there any thoughts on the experimental? Is anyone
Nah, not really.
I don't think anyone on this panel really cares too much about it, other than like, right, it's good, it exists, well done.
Yeah.
I got a bit of time left. Why don't we do a quick round of Joe's game show
Sure.
GTFO?
Get off the GOTF, but it's close enough.
Get the fence
Offense.
off. Get the fence off.
Yeah, yes.
Hi, Joe. Get the fence off. Do it.
All right, we're
What do we
getting the
got?
fence off for Valentine's Day. 214.
GTFO.
Yes, yes. If you would like to also support in the fence and its release, you can head on over to patreon.com/tacticalcrouch. Any level of patronage can and will get you special Discord privileges where you can come on over. You can drop a question in the Crouchers chat. I will copy it and put it on my magical list. And funnily enough, we have some good ones that are kind of quite topical, weirdly enough. Refine Bean asked not too long ago, one of our lovely patrons, what retired Overwatch player, either from Overwatch League contenders or even a streamer, if you saw them getting back into Overwatch 2 and going for it again professionally, would make you think, huh, this strategy worked, we're on the up and up? So what kind of retired...
What retired player coming back would be like a good move?
Yes, like, okay, this would be like a metric of success for like Overwatch 2. Like, okay, like we're starting to get more people back. Like, what would be like the benchmark to like signal hype? Like, okay, like, oh, Seagull's coming back. Like, oh, okay, like we're starting to really get into this. Not necessarily if I'm reading the question right, it's not necessarily in terms of skill, but more of like pop culture almost.
Okay, there's one correct answer.
I think I know. Yeah. I think there is a very good answer, but we'll see what AVRL has to say. AVRL, we'll start with you.
XQC?
Yes.
That would be...
That's it, right? I don't think there's a better answer than that.
Yeah. So if he gets on, he's then like increasing the amount of Overwatch viewers on a regular basis by at least a magnitude. Like,
however, he's a brand risk. Blizzard will probably never engage him, and there's a chance that he would still shit on the game anyway, and that would create a fan narrative where his extremely young, impressionable audience would just parrot anything he says. With great difficulty, because most of them don't understand what he says because he can't speak English properly, but they'll try.
I think, generally speaking, unless he's absolutely goblin moding and saying a bunch of dumb shit because he's like overloaded, he has not had like too many, at least, like, I'm missing the
try and describe it.
There's like an effect, or like it's called something window. Eric, give me the word.
Mandela effect.
No.
Eric's not here.
The what's it called? There's like a window, the window, which is like the opinions you can publicly hold that pass political correctness, basically. And I feel like he's mostly been inside of that for the most part, and has actually grown a lot as a person over the last years. I haven't actively followed, but I don't... yes, he's a brand risk for sure, but not of the kind that gets you in hot water with the community anymore, most of the time.
Not of the kind where he would lose money himself. He's a brand risk, but not... He's smart enough to understand that he knows where to draw the line. This is kind of like, just from what I see, object. I don't really watch his content too often, but from what I can tell, like he's got to be that, or his team is really like good at leashing him, because somebody on his team or he himself has to understand that he's big enough, and the money is big enough that you got to make sure that money keeps flowing in. So you don't want to have any major fuck ups. So that's there. To
Overton window, by the way.
To further things down as well, I think another big person there would be actually Tim.
Okay. Yes,
man,
that's the next one. Yep.
People forget we had Tim. Tim was one of our guys. He was an Overwatch guy for a long ass time.
Yep.
And to be fair, like Tim was also on the wave of like streamers leaving Overwatch, just like Overwatch bad, blah blah blah, and probably right at the time, to be fair. But getting Tim back would be huge.
Yep,
and here's the other fun fact about getting Tim back is Activision Blizzard have already engaged him for Call of Duty. So it's not that far cry. It's not that far
No.
off that we could engage him. We being Blizzard here could engage him for Overwatch. But I also think he probably would just be keen for Overwatch generally, even just because he's an Overwatch guy. He said that he would try. He said with some hesitation and reluctance, they'd be like, probably try it, you know. So why not? Shroud would probably try it. It's an FPS game.
Yeah.
He's played a bit of Overwatch. It's not really his thing, but I think he'll try it. I think most of like the sizable streamers would give it a go. They'll try it. And this is why the game, whenever they get their hands in the game, it's got to be good enough that either returning Overwatch personalities or non-Overwatch personalities, for example, if Pokimane played the game, they got to be, the game's got to be good enough that they have at minimum a neutral impression about it, like it's an okay game. They can't have a negative. If they have a negative impression of it, that's we're in a lot of, that's not good for us. It's really bad for us. Because they set a precedent of what fan narrative is. Love it or hate it, but personalities, social media personalities, fuck it, because the whole planet's filled with sheep. They'll, people parrot what social media personalities. I mean, people on Reddit fucking parrot me all the time. And, and I'm not even a big dude. I'm pretty small in that regard. So, it doesn't take much. Yeah, that's just what happens. So, if they have a negative view on the game, that spreads pretty quickly. Even if like, even this is the crazy part. This is the phenomenon. You could be a player who gets their hands on the beta and you actually enjoyed it, but your favorite streamer says it sucks.
Yeah.
Just that alone changes your mind. You're like, oh, I don't like it anymore, even though like you actually did.
Yep, definitely chips away at it. Is there maybe a player that you guys think is
XQC fits both because he's
true?
An X-Pro
Yes,
as well.
X-Pro. Is there somebody who you'd maybe want to see, like selfishly, to kind of like take a different approach to the question? Is there a player you hope comes back? People
will not welcome him back, will not want him back, but factually, Sinatra, I don't know if I would welcome him back either, but just saying, like, that's a former MVP, one of our best players historically. I'm just spitting facts here. I'm not like injecting any other opinion to this. But obviously, like he's gone in some really hot. I'm not going to get into drama here, but he's gone in some hot water over some stuff that he has done. So he probably wouldn't be welcome back, but he'd be like a player that, if it wasn't for that, would be like a big player coming back. But I think he's doing too well in Valorant as just not as a pro player anymore, obviously, but like he's still getting like 10K viewers on streams.
Yiska?
I mean, Corey would be interesting. I think just like that would probably hint towards like the game being pretty mechanics focused. I assume. Yeah, it's hard. I don't know. Like, are there any other players that retired that I would like to unretire?
Yeah, Hadapan, Oh shit, we already got him back. Oh, that's good.
True.
I'm gonna look through some season 1 players real quick.
Did someone like go out before his time?
Oh, bro, I'll tell you, bro, this is impossible. I will give you the one play. None of you have thought of this. This is the God answer. It will never happen. But if this guy came back, it would be a game changer for what it means. Zoms.
Okay. Oh.
He's like you have to say he's a top Valorant player. He's on Sentinels. He's done well. You say what you will about Sentinels from Champions, but the guy's still got a ring. He's still won Masters.
Right.
And people forgot that he was actually an Overwatch pro, pre-Overwatch League.
Right.
Was he jokingly announced to like Rain or something? I think he was. Wasn't he jokingly announced to a team?
That rings a bell, yeah.
Yeah, he was jokingly announced to some team, and I can't remember which one. But then he never actually made it. And I think he probably, I think he said that he would have played if a team actually gave him an offer, but it just never eventuated. And so he ended up not playing. He went to Apex, I think, for a while, did okay there, and then went to Valiant, and that's where he found most of his success. So if that dude comes back, I mean, fucking, that's a lot. That's a dude that really has done way too well at another game, and really there's no chance of him ever coming back. But if he did, I mean, I think at that stage I know him in the Matrix. I've confirmed I'm in the Matrix.
Yeah, it's hard to say. I feel like we haven't lost too many like all-time greats.
Is that because we haven't had that many all-time greats?
Yeah.
And most of them have just retired instead of going pro in another game.
Yeah, very true. Yeah, I'm just thinking like who would be probably still be good, but chose to go out on their own terms, and then
Zumba is doing Valorant now.
Yeah,
He's a good player in Korea.
Yeah.
I don't know
Very
that you'd consider him to be the best in either Overwatch or Valorant, but
Mhm.
it would say a lot for a player that's currently a pro in another game to come back.
Right.
So I'm targeting those players currently. Bebe is another one.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't say he was the best in Overwatch or Valorant, but
Yeah.
I mean, maybe for a very brief window of time, he was considered one of the better players, if not the best in Valorant, for a very short window. But if he came back, I don't think he ever will. I think he loves Valorant too much, understandably, but that's another guy.
Yep.
I mean, fuck, you could just say Corey. You said Corey, or you could just say Raucous
Yeah.
Zachary as well, maybe.
Sure.
Just throw him in there, like who cares, you know? Why not?
Yeah, huge
maybe
guys
some of
left,
the maybe some of the OG guys in Europe, like the
Mhm.
AKMs and stuff.
Yeah.
Kind of interesting.
Unco. Toby even back from coaching. Yeah, not too many. But yeah, XQC is the obvious one.
For sure. Hopefully that answered your question, Bean. But time for another one. I don't know what we're timetables looking at.
Give me one more. Give me one more.
Okay, one more.
Wait, how many we got? We've only done one, haven't we? That's only
yes,
one.
that's just
Okay,
one.
well, let's just keep going and see how we do.
Okay, fair enough. Fish Ghost comes in with a interesting one regarding flex supports. They ask, Platchat putting Izayaki so high in their flex support list had me wondering, is being the best player on your team, parentheses, at some point in your career, is that a prerequisite to being top 3 in your role? So must you be on a top team, or had me wondering, is the best player on your team a prerequisite to being a top player in your role? Must you be the best player on your team to be the top, performer in general?
Who's going first?
We'll go Yiska since I picked you last.
Okay, so here's the problem.
Mhm.
Accurately telling someone's skill set is a big challenge in Overwatch. There are interdependencies where you will not be able to show the world how good you are if your support cast isn't up to snuff, especially on some roles like main tank, for instance, right? So the problem is it definitely helps being like the best player on your team because that has a lot of telling power. It has more telling power if you're the best player on the best team, of course, because at that point, like, you're probably the best player in the world. And I think ideally it shouldn't mean anything because we would be able to accurately discern who actually contributes the most. But on a spectrum of knowing how good someone is, like in all kinds of different sports and esports and whatnot, we are some of the worst at evaluating actual skill sets. Why? Well, for one, in order to have an accurate understanding of how good someone is, you probably need a ton of first-person footage that you're not getting by watching the broadcast. You also need a sample set of people in that role and what they do in order to understand what good play on that role actually looks like, right? You then have to consider like how much resources they're getting. If you want to be good at aggregating, a lot of sports do, and there I'm not too sure, but it's either that we have deluded ourselves into accepting that stats are a much bigger tell in other sports or esports, but we can be reasonably sure that our stats are majorly flawed in how Overwatch has been played, at least post hero pools, in terms of like being able to relate numbers against each other without heavy use of the eye test, because like high number does not equal good play, because high number can actually equal bad play if you're, for instance, feeding support ultimate charge, or you're playing in certain compositions that always have you just like shoot people that have like one less shield against a different comp or whatever, right? So like the amount of nano boost you can expect, the amount of damage boost you generally get from your team, right? There are so many interdependencies that have unreal complexity in this game that it is incredibly hard to discern a top tier player on a bad team from a, let's say, a tier 1.5 player on a great team, right? Now, sometimes it's blatantly obvious, like in Flatter's case in Fleshlux, right? Sometimes the stats are so out of whack that it can't be anything else. And it absolutely makes sense that that player that achieved that makes it to MVP, right? Any other time, it is such a problem in Overwatch to really have accurate sayings. And that's why I feel like trophies mean a lot more in Overwatch than they do in other competitions. I feel like aggregated expert evaluation should mean a lot more, even though, unfortunately, I would argue people aren't taking it as serious as they should. And everything that we could use in order to judge someone fairly should be used, because, man, are we far away from having a rational take on all of this.
I'll also counter with the fact that what if you're on a top team like Shanghai? The sixth best player on that team could still be like the best in their role.
Yes.
If you're on a team where you have a best in slot in every single role, and there's 6 of them, or even Overwatch there's 5 of them, then how can you know, it's very hard to be the best player in your team when your entire team is MVP quality. So that being the case, like I don't, you know, and you could easily be, for example, like Easyaki is probably not the best player on his team, but I think Yiska's gonna hate, but I think he's top 3. You know what I'm saying? Like, JJoNak is probably not the best player on his team, but I think JJoNak is the #1 main support, hands down, no competition. I think the next guy is far below JJoNak, unfortunately. And you know, I'll say it, like Lip is probably the best player on Shanghai right now, straight up.
Yeah.
Right. But everybody else, like, fuck, Void is easily top 3, but he's not the #1 player on his team.
Yeah.
So if your team is stacked enough, then I mean, this just doesn't hold water at all.
Yeah, that's a different caveat. And I will say, it is very seldom the case that you actually have the 6 best players in the world, but Shanghai just might.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, I think the sheer existence of Shanghai means this question is answered. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're like you know, you're going to a WoW Mythic raid and you got best in slot items in every single slot.
Yeah,
that's Shanghai. That's Shanghai Dragons. You know,
and we can have a discussion.
Bro, you're about to make the Lich King your bitch. Like that's kind of the level that Shanghai are at.
For sure.
Next question. We'll do one more, and then that's gonna be it.
All right,
Last one. I got a meeting in 14 minutes. I want to take a break before then as well. We're gonna do a final. Is there one more?
Yeah, we've got one more.
Or if you think we should save it for next week, what do you want to do?
We could probably quickly get through this one. This one's
we'll do this one in less than 10 minutes then.
Yeah, I don't think this will take you too long.
All right, let's get into it.
One for All asks, would SADO returning to Philly be a win or a detriment to Fusion Shot at being a contender for the 2022 season? We'll go back to AVRL for this one.
Would SADO returning to Philly be a detriment or a
win?
A boon. Yeah. Okay. Sorry, I should write this down. Right now it would probably be a W, considering. I mean, what do we even have? Like, I'm gonna look at Philly's roster real quick. I keep forgetting what they have. They have only Fury. I think Fury probably plays over SADO anyway, but I have to also look at this. Who's left in the main tank position? You have guys like Stand One, Dreamer, Among, which no Korean team will pick him up, unfortunately. Takayaki, if they really want to go there. Yeah, SADO might be the best pick. SADO might be the best pick out of all of them. So a W, but not because like he would be your #1 pick if everyone was available,
right?
But simply because he'd be the best of the remaining tanks available.
Yiska?
The year is 2060. SADO is one of the better main tanks in the league, says Sideshow. as SADO fire strikes a deflecting Genji, killing Boombox and Neptuno for the 3rd time that match. That wasn't SADO feeding, says Sideshow, as SADO charges off the map as Reinhardt. Everyone else is just too hard on SADO, says Sideshow, as SADO accidentally swaps the soldier, resetting his ult charge. Okay, Sideshow, says the nurse. Time for your medication. That's an old copy pasta that I dug up that recently was fed to us in the
What year was that? Was that SADO like season 1 or season 2 or something?
must have been like early
like
season
really
2.
early SADO.
Yeah.
I think it was a much mature looking SADO in more recent seasons, but
yeah, I mean, it must have been pre-Rolluck, right? Like, you could switch your soldier. So, but yeah, like, I think, generally speaking, what Avril said holds absolutely true in that it's probably the best remaining main tank. Once again, I think people way underestimate main tanks that actually play the entirety of the roster and have a weird hard-on for the guy that has one pop-off hero that for some reason is meta for a lot of the season, or this person can actually lift him into the meta, instead of the guy that covers all the picks relatively decently and is never a liability to a team. I think that is probably the better thing to have for your main team position, and possibly also true coming into Overwatch 2. Now, I don't think there's a better candidate for that still available than SADO on the market.
also like it's a good financial option. Like in terms of
Yes.
like money and salary. I mean, my guy would probably play for a salary consisting only of Coca-Cola. So I mean, that's the W for Philly right there. I save a lot of money on salaries by having this guy on. Just got to be dropping him a 2-liter bottle every single day. That's enough.
Yep.
How much is 365 bottles of 2-liter Cokes? How much is a bottle of 2-liter Coke, Joe? What do you got for me? You go to your local go to your supermarket right now. Hypothetically, you pick out a fresh 2-liter from the fridge. How much y'all paying? $3, $4? What do you got?
2, 3, about anywhere from $4 to $5, I would say.
$5. 5 times 365 is how much you have to pay SADO. That's how much you got to pay SADO.
$18.25. So a
$18.25.
little less than $2,000.
A little less than $2,000. Heard it here, folks. That's all you need. That's all you need. You know, you give him a year's supply of 2-liter Cokes. My guy will play some main tank for you. That's the cost of that mercenary right there.
Now, if you could get some Mentos for that guy, goddamn, would he pop off?
All right, dude. Finally, as we head on our way out for the episode, this is like one of our shorter episodes. It's because we actually had to put a real time limit because I have another thing to attend to. Congratulations to Puckett and Zoe for having a baby.
Oh, yeah.
No, they didn't have a baby with each other. They both had babies separately in their own separate relationships. I know the wording of what I said is a little bit ambiguous. Like, did they have a baby with each other? No, they have separate babies with separate partners. So congratulations to both of them for that.
Also born and unborn.
Okay, yeah, that's another very important
Not
point to put out there.
Yeah.
Puckett had a baby born, and Zoe is pregnant due in July. So there's
Right.
one of the babies has been born, the other one has not been born.
Right. Which also might have
regardless.
implications towards what's Overwatch League hosting, I would assume. But we'll see.
Possibly, yeah.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, maybe we get Frankie back or something. Who knows?
Ooh, herself had just had a child,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, not that long ago.
Man, people my age are all having babies, man. Like,
There's no clock on this.
No,
type of stuff.
no.
No,
Yes,
there
there's
is.
people younger
No,
than you.
there
There's
is.
people are younger than you.
yes, they are.
They are
There
older than
is,
me,
but-
so I'm all right. It's okay. I'm gonna have a baby at like 50, and then by the time my child is old enough, I'm probably dead. That's my plan, my life goal. Sorry, I will be uploading to Matrix by then. That's fine.
Right.
That's fine with me.
Can a
So-
hand get pregnant?
And with that, episode 214. Thank you so much, guys, for watching, listening. Hope you enjoyed the discussion of the new Overwatch news. And we'll be seeing y'all next week for 215, where ideally and hopefully more stuff is dropped. Maybe we'll talk about more about AOT, Attack on Titan, again when the next episode comes out and there's a bit more to talk about. The last episode, again, was quite slow, so not a lot there. yeah, I had a lot of fun. Thank you so much, guys. See you all next week.